Yeah, this is a really fantastic play. One of the favorites for the medals in Paris as well, and this year in the World Championships.
So there's the part of me that is a woman, and there's a part of me that is a woman who is a disabled athlete. These are all parts of my identity, and they both challenge me in ways that I didn't expect.
Today, we're speaking with Claire Taggart, world #1 boccia player. I'm really excited for you to hear this conversation because Claire has gone out of her way to raise awareness for this sport and has been incredibly honest and transparent about what her experience is as an athlete with a disability. Also, specifically naming out when people are not mindful and aware of the words that they are using. So, really excited for you to hear this conversation today.
My name is Claire Taggart. I live in Northern Ireland, but I compete for the United Kingdom, and my sport is boccia.
Tell us about boccia.
I like to think that boccia is the most inclusive Paralympic sport that no one's ever heard of. But in simple terms, boccia is a Paralympic sport. It's played by people with severe physical disabilities. The concept is there's a white jack ball, and the aim of the game is to get closer than your opponent with your 6 balls to the jack ball. And when you break it down like that, it doesn't seem like that complex or anything like that, but it's a really complex game. Filled with tactics, decision making, and really pressurized. And can you tell I'm a little bit passionate about it?
Yes.
Claire, how did you get into boccia? You mentioned it's the sport people have never heard of. So where did it come from for you?
In a long-winded way, I wasn't born with my disability. I was born non-disabled, and I developed my disability as a teenager. Between 16 and 19, I went from being non-disabled teenager to using a wheelchair full time. So I initially started to stumble and walk when I was walking. I was very uneasy on my feet. And basically that was the start of my dystonia. But I think for me, the getting a diagnosis at 19, although it took 3 years, that getting a diagnosis was massively important because the world opens up in terms of help and support and services. When you're undiagnosed, I don't know what it's like in America, but in the UK, it's very challenging to get support and access to services if you're undiagnosed. So for me and my family, diagnosis was a good thing, but I appreciate that that's not always the case for everyone. How I got into boccia was I started playing a little bit of wheelchair basketball whenever I was starting to develop my disability. And the nature of my dystonia is that it's progressive, so it has changed over a period of years. So I started playing wheelchair basketball, and I could only manage I think I managed about 3 or 4 weeks of the training before my hands had started to become affected, and pushing the wheelchair was very difficult. So then I went into wheelchair rugby, which is more commonly known as murder ball. It was previously called. And I loved the aggression and the tactical side of it and things like that. But again, the nature of my dystonia meant that after about 6 months, I wasn't able to keep up, and it wasn't really safe for me to play. So there was a local boccia club being set up at the time in Northern Ireland, where I live, and I went along and did not like it at all. Wasn't interested in playing boccia at all. I think because it was a very participation-based sport at that time in Northern Ireland. It was more about grassroots and getting people into the community and things like that. Whereas in the end, what I was looking for was that community of disabled people, but it was that element of pushing my brain, challenging myself, and eventually discovering that boccia was and has been a Paralympic sport for years, and that it could be something that I would be all right at, I guess.
Significantly more than all right at, Claire.
Yeah.
I have a question. What does it mean to be a woman athlete for you and a para-athlete for you?
I think, that's a really good question for a start. So, I think fitting into also, so there's the part of me that is a woman, and there's a part of me that is a woman who is a disabled athlete at elite level. And it's being multifaceted, I think, is the kind of way I would see it. These are all parts of my identity. And they both challenge me in ways that I didn't expect. So until recently, until after the Paralympics in Tokyo, men and women in boccia competed together. It was a mixed classification, but after Tokyo, it's now gone to male only, female only. And I think for me, and for other women in the sport, we really have our chance to show what we can do, show how we can compete with the best of them. So I think that that's a really good thing. And obviously being a disabled person, again, I don't know what it's like in America or any other country. It's really challenging in the UK, and that's only speaking from my experience. And I guess without boccia, I wouldn't know how to do a lot of things in my life, because whenever you're either diagnosed with a disability, you develop a disability, or you're born with a disability. There's from my experience, there's no guidebook. Nobody hands you a guidebook. This is how to do this. This is how to get that. These are the people to reach out to. You have to do a kind of a lot of that legwork, pardon the pun, on your own. And with your family. So for me, meeting young people in boccia who not necessarily were going through the same life experiences as me, but had gone through life experiences of college, university, things like that, they were able to help me see where I want to go with my life. And that, if nothing else, boccia has given me the opportunity to be independent by providing me with the community, our great fountains of knowledge that we can rely on.
You mentioned that this came on later in life. What advice would you give to people who either were just in an accident or just starting to show symptoms?
When you have a disability, whether that be a chronic illness or a visible disability or a non-visible disability, the world is already so hard for non-disabled people. Add in a disability on top of that, and it's mind-blowingly difficult. What I would say is find your people who are going through similar-esque things as you, similar symptoms. Find your community that will help and support you when perhaps the world is fighting against you. And I guess I'm being kind of aloof and things like that with that, but I think I've really benefited from the boccia community in general, and I would encourage anybody to get involved in sport or creative opportunities if that's what you're more interested in. But there will be people in the world who are going through something similar to you, and just try and reach out and find them is what I would say.
You're an inspiration, so thank you for sharing.
Oh, I hate that word. I hate that word, and a lot of people, a lot of disabled people have a real issue with the word inspiration. And I'm not taking offense to you calling me an inspiration and things like that, but I think that where disabled people have a real difficulty with the word inspiration is when, for example, I'm at the shop and I'm doing my weekly shop, or I'm out walking my dog, I'm just doing mundane human tasks, and non-disabled people find that inspiring. That is not good. I want to be an inspiration. This is the way I would see it. I want to be an inspiration for what I'm doing on a boccia court.
It's your athletic, yeah.
Never mind what I'm doing off a boccia court. I'm just doing adult stuff, like, well, supposed adult stuff, human stuff. And I think that that's where a lot of disabled people have a difficulty, a challenge, I would say, with the word inspiration. But don't take that the wrong way. And I understand why you would say that I'm an inspiration for my journey and things like that. But yeah, I'm also very stubborn, as you can tell. Yeah.
No, I love it. And thank you for actually, teaching me and teaching us about that, because we're not aware.
It's honestly fine. And I think that the more non-disabled people we have as allies, then the better the world can only be.
Are there other ways that you were portrayed that you think get it wrong?
It's still a stigma. It's still a portrayal thing. And like, I just see myself as someone who wants to get on and do what I'm doing with my life. I don't need comments about how fast I'm going in my wheelchair, or have I got a driver's license for that thing, or people speaking to my dad instead of speaking directly to me, asking my dad questions about me, which is really common, ironically, in airports most. Yeah. Does her wheelchair have a dry cell battery? It's like, no, I can speak. But yeah, my dad has a brilliant response to it now, where he just pretends not to hear people until they speak to me. But yeah, like, these are things that were happening 20, 30 years ago, and like, attitudes towards disability has changed and is improving. But we still have a long way to go. So
now you're world number one. You are very much a leader in the boccia space. How have you seen yourself grow as a leader?
Not so well. And I think that's perhaps not the answer that people are expecting. I think being world number one and becoming world champion adds a lot of pressure. And obviously, this is a Paralympic year. It's the one that everybody asks about and everybody knows about. So I think that it does add an untold pressure, and it's something that I guess I'm still learning to live and adjust and compete with. And I think that like, my coach and my support team around me and my parents, they keep me very grounded, and I'm very proud to be doing what I'm doing. And not everybody in the world gets to go to an Olympics or a Paralympics. So I'm just enjoying each moment as it comes.
I know you said you don't like to talk about wanting to medal, wanting specific things. So what are your goals for the future that you feel comfortable verbalizing and sharing?
With boccia and with elite sport in general, and May, you'll probably agree that like, elite sport takes up an awful lot of our lives. But it doesn't stop us wanting stuff off court or off rink or off the athletics track or whatever sport you're involved in. So I think when people ask you about your goals, it's, for me, I've kind of started to talk about like what I'd like to do on court, but also what I'd like to do away from boccia. And I think that, yeah, I don't know if people find that interesting or not, but yeah.
Yes.
So with boccia this year, I'd like to stay in the number one ranked position, and then see how I go into games. I'm trying not to think about it too much and put too much pressure on it. Off court and away from a boccia court, I'd also like to get another dog. Perhaps one not as noisy as Rio. I would like to get a golden retriever. And yeah, I think like when people talk about goals and plans and things like that, it can be a bit scary. So yeah, I like kind of breaking it down into little small things.
Those sound like amazing goals. Thank you for sharing. 2 final questions from me. What would you say to your younger self?
Be patient. Be patient, which is something I still am learning. I think we're always trying to rush through things and try and, I've got the other one. Be more present in the moment. I love, like I've said, like live music and things like that. And I struggle internally, is what I would say, when people go to a concert or a gig and they hold their phone up and record the whole thing. Who are you recording that for? Like, are you ever going to sit back and watch that from start to finish? So for me, being more present in the moment is recognizing where I'm at, taking a video or a photo, and then putting my phone away. Because I think that being more present in like our daily environment is more important than a single photo on your phone or a video on your phone, and enjoying that moment. So yeah, I've gone a bit poetic there, but yeah, those are my two things.
Last question I have is, what do you want to say to all of the women Olympians and Paralympians who are competing in Paris this summer? Firstly,
good luck, and recognize where you started versus where you've come to now. And you're in an elite club of people who will compete at an Olympics and a Paralympics, and not everybody in the world gets that opportunity. Be proud of like where you've come from when you started your sport versus where you've got to now. And again, I guess, like for me, getting back to it, the whole being present idea, there is time for spending on your phone and recording things and posting things online, but enjoying the experience of being at an Olympics or Paralympics is more than a video that you upload to your social media. And yeah, spending time with your teammates and your support network and making connections and friends when you're there is again more important than time spent on your phone.
Thanks for tuning into Flame Bearers.
If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us along on social media for more behind-the-scenes exclusive content on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever social platform you are on. Thank you, and stay tuned for our upcoming episode.